Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Beyond the Belief podcast. I'm your host, Lavender Loveway. With each episode, I invite you personally to join me as we explore a belief. It might be a widely held idea or a forgotten truth, or perhaps even one that feels unknown or deeply contested. This is a sanctuary for exploration, a place to absorb, listen, and learn with an open heart. We're shedding the heaviness of right and wrong and ascending into the lightness of greater connection and expansive knowledge. Today's episode is no exception. This is another precious opportunity to find a little gem or two of wisdom that helps you reweave your own tapestry of truth. Hello, my dear friends. I'm so delighted that y'all are here with me. I have an exciting episode today for Beyond the Belief that was not part of my belief system, even just a couple of months ago, but something came across my radar. And as I always set the intention to be that if something comes across my radar, I'm just going to open my heart. And the thing that I look for the most is the resonance within me. And what I view any sort of basically vibrational truth that happens within me will make me feel pulled towards or attracted to and or have a deep sudden knowing that this thing that I'm hearing or thing that I'm witnessing is true, is something that is my truth, even without the logic behind it. And of course, this is our lovely ego. Hey, girl. Thank you for the reminder that I do not currently embody or house or store this specific belief within me, but it is one that I'm feeling the resonance in, and I would rather take the leap to dive into it, to see if I continue to develop essentially more resonance, or maybe through inquiry and contemplation, I identify, you know what, maybe I don't. And that's okay too. So as some of you might know or might not know, I am a QHHT practitioner. QHHT was invented by the late Dolores Cannon. It stands for the Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And it is something that I have absolutely not only fallen in love with, but I've realized that it is a connective practice that allows us as individuals to connect more deeply with our own inner knowing, our own inner truth, with our higher self, with who Dolores called the SC or the subconscious, aka referring to the oversoul, your higher self, the power that resides within each one of us. And I, as a practitioner, essentially am a shepherd or a guide for my client to help them connect with themselves on a deeply profound level. And if you want to find out more about my practice or more about QHHT, I will be sure to include the link below in the show notes so that you can take a peek. But with these sessions, there are two questions that I am asked almost every single time with every single client. And these two questions also are two of the most common questions asked of even my fellow practitioners. And those two questions are, number one, why am I here? And number two, what am I supposed to be doing? Or am what I'm doing right now, and often it has to do with career, has to do with life choice. Is this the thing that I'm destined to do? Is this part of, again, why I'm here, but what I am supposed to be doing for the world, for life, for me, for the God of my knowing, insert thing here. And to me, these are deeply human questions, but they are also connective questions. And I find that those that are contemplating these at any point, could be surface level, could be deeper understanding, diving into understanding their place in the plan, if you will. We are all interconnected. And where you currently reside, standing in your light or possibly not, and being able to and feeling, there's like a feeling that is connected to that. It's like a deep pull, a deep desire to understand. To me, I relate this as part of someone's awakening to who they are, what they're doing, where their energy is best leveraged in this beautiful place of now here on planet Earth. And in becoming a QHHT practitioner, I did a ton of studying and continue to study and probably will continue forever. The teachings of Dolores Cannon And specifically between her lectures and her books, the adventures, if you will, the discoveries, the uncoverings of the things that she learned, she heard through her clients' sessions. And sometimes this would be the individual, their SC, their all-knowing, their oversoul, their higher self describing these things. And or it was the interconnectedness of the all-knowing across clients. So often she would say that she'd have a session halfway across the world, let's say in Europe, and then she'd be at her home office in Arkansas. And the SC, as she calls it, would give her basically a sequential message. So she'd get the first part when she was in England. And then when she'd see a completely different client who has no ties to the client she saw in England, she gets the second part of basically the same message. So there is this deep interconnectedness. And for me, as a self-proclaimed nerd, this to me is so interesting. It's like, what? Okay. And I will humbly admit, I'm a believer of magic and I'm a believer of interconnectedness. So to me, it's like discovering, what does this mean? How is this even possible? And how beautiful this is. And so part of what she shares in her books, and specifically I'll speak to her book called The 3 Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth. She essentially had been doing hypnotherapy for, I think it was probably at this point, 30 years, back in the early 2000s. And she suddenly started noticing that different beings, different people were coming through her office to have sessions that were just different. So before then, she was doing a lot of past life regressions and going back and adventuring with these beings and what they may have seen or done. Or for those of you that are also familiar with her work, they could be imprints, they could be firsthand experience. As she said, she was the explorer, the reporter. She would recover lost knowledge, lost history. And it was exhilarating for her. But then suddenly these other individuals started coming through with different things. So instead of going to past lives, they started going to other places and or simultaneous experiences. They weren't instantly going into this, as I see it in my mind, this somnambulistic state where you're just totally out of it and totally become that person who's living in the 1200s in a castle. You instead are conscious, but you also are speaking about being at source. So suddenly she started opening this gateway or understanding for these other beings. And they were at, as they described it, they were at source, that they were in so much light. It was as if it was the sun, but it wasn't warm. And so suddenly things shifted, and things shifted pretty dramatically, because what Dolores ended up starting to uncover was what she called and she deemed the 3 waves of volunteers. And just months ago now, I did not even know this was a thing. I did not even know this was a concept. And if I'm also honest, I didn't even know it was a possibility because I had heard of past life regressions before. But to see that these beings were coming basically from somewhere else in a different capacity here to Earth than the other individuals or the other beings that she had interviewed and hosted sessions for, this was so intriguing. And through learning this, as well as having my own sessions performed by my fellow practitioners, shout out to all of you, I have learned that I, in fact, am a second wave volunteer. So there are 3 waves, what she affectionately calls first wave, second wave, third wave. And being that this second wave is part of my mission here, I wanted to share it so that you may take a glimpse at it and invite you to also contemplate that if something I share, and I'll just walk through it at a high level. There's a ton of material. Obviously, I would absolutely recommend picking up her book, The 3 Waves of Volunteers in the New Earth, because she describes it at length as well as includes excerpts from those QHHT sessions, the scripts that you can actually read through. They give so much context and information. But here in this episode, I wanted to share this because it was not on my radar. And if for not my adventure into becoming a QHHT practitioner and studying Dolores's work, I don't know if I would know about essentially this belief that there are those that are here that might not be ones who would regularly incarnate, and the possibility that you, my dear, might be a volunteer. So I actually inquired about this with my guides. I took it the step further. So not only taking it from Dolores's perspective, But what did my guides have to share about this? And this blew my mind. They shared that there are essentially two different paths of beings that currently are incarnated here on Earth. The first, this is what they said. For some on Earth, they are not on a mission. They are here to experience. They have been on what you refer to as the karmic wheel, and they don't know how to get off of it. So essentially, they defined one path as those that are here to experience, and that they have incarnated probably multiple times, if not hundreds plus times, even if I look at Dolores's work and what she had uncovered and discovered. So those that are basically on a path of experiencing. And then number two, the other path is the path of a volunteer. And this is what they shared about the volunteers. For others on Earth, they are here on a mission. They are what you refer to as the volunteers. As volunteers, they may be here to activate energy, anchor energy, illuminating the light of the earth. These beings are helping, empowering, expanding all beings on earth, helping each one remember who they are, and essentially empowering the ascension of earth. My goodness. So even my guides then confirmed, and I will be very honest, when I channeled this and I connected with my guides, knowing that they too understand this concept and are speaking obviously in this language to help me understand, I was taken aback. I was truly like, wow, this could be really real. So what they shared was this. Are you a volunteer here to help Earth ascend? Are you here to help yourself ascend? So whether you're on a mission to help Earth ascend, or you are here to experience your own ascension, these are the two pathways of all beings currently incarnated on Earth. And of course, through my further reflection and in setting my intention as I channeled, they also shared this, because this was part of my curiosity in me leading a QHHT session. And as a practitioner, would I be able to detect or uncover or quickly discover if someone was either here to experience or here on a mission? Here's what they said. It is not clear by the surface. It is not clear by even key indicators what the difference is. It will almost appear identical. So for you listening to this message, this is something that Dolores also echoed. And that she even had inquired with the SC of understanding, hey, for example, there are imprints, and I'll get into that into another episode, but there are imprints of experiences that are imprinted upon your soul. If you have not incarnated here on Earth, at least recently, you leverage these imprints as experience. And these imprints are real lived experiences that essentially live in the Akashic records, and you imprint it on your soul so that you can leverage that experience. So you do not walk into this experience without that experience, because it can be a really rough ride. And essentially, Dolores was able to confirm that even if someone has an imprint versus an actual experience, you cannot tell the difference. So there is a lot of discovery. To me, this allows for a medium of uncovering and diving in and digging in and seeking to understand, which for me as a natural adventurer makes me so excited. I am that person in Minecraft that likes to just run around to see what I can discover, because for me, uncovering those things and seeing the interconnectedness of them is so fulfilling. So this, my friends, is an invitation to ponder, to consider, might you be a volunteer? So I'll provide to you just briefly, again, just surface level to introduce you to this in case this is something new and or you would like to share even with a friend of, hey, have you heard of these? Might you be maybe one of these three waves of volunteers? Because as you will see as I walk through this brief history, the activation of these volunteers is what empowers Earth to ascend, what empowers Earth to go from what is referred to as the old Earth to the new Earth. So myself as a second waver, I am here to anchor energy, to help with that ascension. And the more that there is activation, the more ascension and more light that can be brought in. So allow me to share just a little bit of history. This journey with the volunteers started after the atomic bomb was dropped in 1945. And the protectors and the watchers of Earth, as Dolores describes, are the ETs essentially that helped create the Earth, and all of those that are assigned to care, a concern, and the caretaking of the earth, they saw that humanity was essentially on a collision course with disaster. And that with this technology of basically atomic energy, we could destroy the planet. And Dolores said in a couple different lectures, as well as in a couple of her books, we were not supposed to have atomic power at that time yet. Yet we did, and then we were using it basically for not good. And so there is a directive, as Dolores used to affectionately say, it is the Star Trek directive that you cannot interfere with a civilization experiment, with a community, if you will. And because of this prime directive, it prevented the caretakers of the earth from coming in from the outside to essentially stop this or stop us. Come in and tell us, hey, you should not use the atomic power in that way. You know, what are you doing? You could blow up the entire planet. And Dolores used to say that in blowing up the planet, it would not only just affect those of us that are on Earth, that supposedly there are beings that live in the different layers of the Earth, obviously in different dimensions on the Earth, in the Earth. And then the reverberations of our planet basically exploding would also cause damage and essentially death, ending or basically interference with many, many other beings and civilizations in the galaxy, in the universe. And so Dolores told the story that they essentially created a brilliant plan. That instead of coming in and interfering, which they could not do, they would actually influence from the inside. And what this meant is that they put out a call for help that went all across the universe. Basically, Earth is in trouble. Who wants to come and volunteer? So the goal here was to send in either pure souls or ascended souls or souls on other missions or doing other things who had not been trapped in Earth's karmic wheel. And those beings could have been on Earth and incarnated before, but had ascended past the karmic wheel. So it's entirely possible that they were here. Funny enough, in uncovering my own story, that is what I found out about myself, that I had incarnated here on Earth eons ago. So these pure ascended souls come here to volunteer, and their mission would be to incarnate and to simply be, to raise the planet's frequency and vibration from within. And this would ultimately help humanity and the planet, the Earth herself, who is a being, by the way, my guides have also confirmed this to me, to help her vibrational ascension to what is referred to as the new Earth. What I kind of think of this like is basically an awakening of these volunteers who have come here from other places and now are here to do certain things, which I'll run through here in just a moment, to help with Earth's ascension and the awakening of those beings who are here to experience. We talked about earlier, you're either here to experience or here on a mission. So the volunteers are here on a mission, but those that are here to experience, they can finally be set free and finally ascend past, upward, and onward from the karmic wheel. Now, the challenge was, according to Dolores and everything she found out, was that any being who comes here and incarnates, when they're being born, their memories are erased. So the veil essentially comes down and they do not remember who they are or where they came from or anything about themselves. Even if they were not a mission seeker, they were an experiencer, they would also have their memories erased. So no matter if they're on a mission or not, no one knows why they're here. Which, funny enough, I think that's why these questions come up in these QHHT sessions of basically, who am I and why am I here? Because we're trying to reconnect with that knowledge, that information, that history, that genesis, that purpose of why we are here and why we are here in this beautiful moment of now. But when we're discussing specifically those that are on a mission, they have not been here in a long time or they've never been here. And what ends up happening is that them coming in to volunteer, they had a very difficult time. And I don't think the very difficult time is just for those that are on a mission. I think even those that are obviously coming back again and again and again to experience are having a difficult time. This is why they keep coming back. They cannot get off of that wheel of karma. If we're speaking about the volunteers specifically, many of them are very peaceful, loving souls coming from very loving dimensions and places who then come here to Earth and essentially incarnate on a planet that feels chaotic, that feels aggressive and negative. And this creates a profound sense of alienation, a deep, active longing for quote, quote, home. where they come from, where they came from, that they cannot remember. Dolores shared this specific story about a first waver, which I'm going to walk through here in just 2 seconds, who kept telling her mother when she was younger, like I guess 7 or 8 or something, like, Mommy, I just want to go home. And they were at their house. She's like, honey, we are home. Like, here we are. But the child kept saying, no, I want to go home. I don't know where home is, but I know it's not here. And so that quite possibly some of these longings were actually part of this specific being's journey in being a first waver. So as a just quick high level overview of the 3 waves and the challenge for each or what they're here for each, I just want to touch on them just gently. Because again, I am sharing this to echo these things that I have understood that have now become part of my belief system, but also have become part of the discovery of who I am. And I believe in my heart, that's why I'm here doing Beyond the Belief as a podcast series, because contemplating and hearing and understanding things that maybe you have never in your wildest dreams could have thought about might suddenly unlock something for you, because it did for me. So as I walk through these, you might recognize something within yourself that resonates with this, and hold on to that. And we'll talk about the moment of contemplation. First up are the first wavers, basically the pioneers. And Dolores does give some approximate birth dates for these different waves. So I'm going to share for the most part what those are, like the target ranges and what my understanding is. She never kind of put them in a final formal order, because there have been beings that, even though they, let's say, were not born in the state range, can still feel associated with that wave. And so because of this, she didn't want to essentially lock us out or create the very linear, thank you, conscious mind ego, who's like, no, you're not in that range, so you cannot be. But this is just an approximation to give you kind of a general target area, but the resonance should be more about the description than the approximation. But again, I'll provide the approximation just as a reference point. So the first wavers, the approximate birth years is somewhere between the 1940s to about the 1960s. And the first wave had the most difficult time, because they were deeply disturbed and even sometimes paralyzed by the strong negative emotions of the earth. It was too much. It was too heavy. They often feel a profound sense of not being or belonging, and they, quote, don't want to be here. Dolores talked about multiple first wavers sharing that. Dolores also found that many in this group had also suicidal tendencies from the overwhelming degree of wanting to go home. What she said is that they were the way showers. They were the ones that were first here, coming in to be this basically first wave of volunteer, paving the path for the second and third waves. So their purpose was very grand, very important, very beautiful, but they had a very difficult time. And some were born with imprints. I think most were born with imprints, but I have heard of stories where others, they didn't either have a lot or they didn't have any. And so they had no relative earth experience, coming in here, knowing that they're not from here, and then not having something to reference. This is where, as the second waver started coming in, things started to change. The second wave are who are called the antennas. And the approximate birth years for second wavers is somewhere in the 70s and through the 80s, maybe even into the very early 90s. And their role is described as being an antenna, being beacons, generators, and channelers of energy. So essentially receiving the energy to anchor into the earth. Their mission is not to do anything, but to simply be. And I will say this from firsthand experience. This one hurts, because I want to know what I need to do, and I want to do something, but it's like, nope, just be where you are, be your full self, step into your light. It's like, can I do something? But I am doing something by just being, by being my authentic self. And I feel like many who I went to school with, I was born in 1984. Those that are around me, we kind of have those similar drawings of wanting to be helpful and do something, but realizing that stepping into our light is what is needed. Essentially, second wavers, their energy by their very nature affects everyone they come in contact with, helping to raise the planet's vibration without a single word being spoken. So Dolores talks about this very specific story shared with her by the SC. That second wavers can walk through an entire mall, let's say, full of people, and they don't talk to anybody. They just walk all the way through the mall and walk out, and have essentially affected every single being in that mall without having a conversation or doing anything, just by being in proximity to others. But what's very curious, the struggle, if you will, for second wavers is that they often prefer to be alone, often working behind the scenes, and those that deeply, truly want to work from home, as even Dolores would say. And funny enough, I think about COVID times and how we all shifted to working from home. I will say, as a second waver, this is the thing that vibrated within me. That was the resonance of, this sounds too much like me. For those of you that might love human design, I am a 2-4 profile. So I am a hermit and an opportunist. So I have this lovely balance between needing my alone time. It's like the introverted extrovert or extroverted introvert, either way. But if I could, I'd just stay home all day. But as I've learned, the intention, the purpose, the need is for me to be around people. And I don't necessarily have to do anything, but I physically need to be around people. And funny enough, even recently in my life journey, this is why I'm being called specifically back to Portland, where I was born and raised, but specifically into the city, which is candidly a place that I absolutely love. And right now I live outside of Phoenix, kind of out in the countryside, if you will, which I love because I've got space and I can just relax. And this was a very healing place for me to be for my life journey. But now learning that I am not made to stay here forever. This is not part of my mission in being here. So also it's been very interesting learning about this is who I am. And yet the guidance that is coming from my guides on where to go and what to do is also aligning with this. It's so beautiful. Then lastly, we have the third wave. And the third wave are affectionately referred to as the new children. They are the gift to the world. Their approximate birth times is somewhere in the 90s up until really present. And their role, they are the catalysts who are here to build the new earth. And what makes them very unique is that their DNA is actually described as already being altered and activated. So if you've heard of supposedly the 12 strands of junk DNA, they come in born with all strands, all activations, all things altered and ready to go. So they are optimized and they are much more advanced. And Dolores used to talk about this at length and found that many of these new children had been misdiagnosed with ADHD and that they essentially were simply more advanced, more receptive. They could receive more information. They were more sensitive. And instead, because they were so different than any other beings that had ever been here and, going through schooling and what have you prior, that something was wrong. And so they needed to be medicated. And then they ended up being misdiagnosed and then mismedicated. And she was very vocal about this because in taking the medication, it then dulls those senses, those super senses, and the challenges of keeping them interested or following the rules, because a lot of them were so brilliant, as she described. They didn't have to do the math the longhand way. They just knew the answer. And the teachers were like, what is happening? Like, how do you know how to do this? Like, I didn't know how to do this when I was doing this. But they do. And they are the gift to the world. She used to also talk through that some of the third wave, the new children, would already have been graduating college in their teenage years. And they were already starting businesses that were helping the world and changing the world. So they are truly the gift to Earth and her ascension. As I was channeling to better understand from my guides, share with me about these volunteers. Is this legit? Is this real? Like, I feel like it is. There's something within me that it just makes so much sense. And as I keep reading more and ingesting more and understanding more, it just keeps making more and more sense. And they directly shared this that I wanted to share with y'all, because for me, reading this and hearing this and ingesting this shifted my heart forever. What they shared. Earth made her choice. Now she is empowered with beings such as yourself here to help anchor the light, anchor the energy, so that she can ascend to her choice because she believes in herself. This is your mission. So my friends, I wanted to share this not only for my own journey, because I think it's incredibly interesting as I continue to peel back the layers and understand the inner workings and the interconnectivity of all of these things that I'm learning. But for me, I feel like it's empowering to understand that some of you, or a lot of you that might be watching this video or listening to this podcast episode, that you may be part of the activation, that in remembering your own purpose, discovering your own purpose, allow this to be an invitation. So the contemplation message for this episode is that this is a loving invitation for you to discover more about your truth. Regardless if this becomes part of your belief system or not, that you are a volunteer or that you're here to experience, either way, allow this to be an opportunity for you to seek to understand what your mission, what your purpose, what your goal, what your intention was in being here. Imagine for just one moment that your energy is supposed to be shared, that you and your deepest longing and calling from within is speaking to this. Quite possibly, you may be a volunteer, or this is a deeper calling to finally step up and out of the karmic wheel. There are things happening right now as far as Earth's ascension that we all can ascend to a higher vibrational level should we choose. Your light is not only critical for your own life journey, but the journey of others' lives too. This means that part of you activating yourself, you also empower and activate others. You may be here to support the earth. And as you think about that or contemplate that, see if there is a deeper resonance within you. See if by chance what I'm sharing vibrates within you. As I affectionately say, this is the truth resonating within you. And even if it feels unnerving or kind of odd or even weird, like, why does this feel true, but I have no idea, but it sounds so crazy and illogical? All I would ask is that you open your heart to contemplate and see if you might be able to invite in the energy, seek to understand how this may be interconnected with you and your purpose and why you're here and your journey. If you are here to just experience, this is the time to shed the karma and step into your fullest light. If you are here on a mission, know that you are not alone and that there are many, many here. This is why Dolores used to share that the population of Earth grew so dramatically, because it was the influx of volunteers. Regardless of your purpose, I invite you to dive in, to discover and uncover, as you, my friend, could help empower and expand all beings, helping them remember who they are. And if there is something here that felt like the truth to you, may this ever expand and ever be a path of joy, adventure, and discovery. And if you are interested in having a QHHT session to explore these things, which is not necessary, you can discover it through your own meditative and communal practice with your guides or with the God of your knowing. But if you are interested in a QHHT session in your local area, I will be sure to include the link in the show notes for you to search for a practitioner that resonates with you wherever you may be on this beautiful planet. This is a very exciting time to be here. And I, my friends, am delighted, honored to be here alongside you.